for Peace, we start with a warning. The story we're about to share contains very graphic images. 25 years ago, this building housed City Hall, the fire department, and the police department for Rogers. On the night of November 5th in 1984, it became the centerpiece of a gruesome crime scene, including a hostage situation. In the early 80s, about 17,000 people called Rogers, Arkansas home, including newlywed Pam Warren Bratcher, who says those days didn't come with very much of a honeymoon. Pam says 6 months after her marriage to Frankie Parker, she could see the cracks in the relationship.
He started threatening me that if I ever thought about leaving him or anything, that I'd have hell to pay for it.
After roughly 18 months, the marriage ended.
I gave him a month to straighten up his life, and he couldn't do it. I mean, he wasn't going to, and so I filed for divorce. He said, "I will ruin you. I will ruin you. I will destroy you."
And Parker did try to ruin Pam's chance at independence. Take a look at these documents. Pam, her family, and friends filed 31 affidavits of complaint against Parker, everything from vandalism to threats. Pam says she felt her once calm life had been invaded, and she felt she'd become a walking target. But she didn't realize how right she was until a routine family phone call.
Dad answers, and I ask him what he's doing, and he says, "I'm drinking Pepsi and eating M&Ms. And he said, "But I'm getting ready to take your sister to work."
She spoke with her dad and sister, then waited for her mother's voice.
And I heard the sliding door open, and then I heard pop, 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 pop. And I heard a little scream, and then the silence. And I kept saying, "Mom, Mom."
Pam lived with an uncle who told her to stay on the phone while he drove to her parents.
And then I just was standing there and had the drapes open, and saw Parker's truck pull up. And he had the door kicked in, and grabbed me by the hair, took me out, and put me in his truck.
Parker then sped away with Pam as his hostage.
All units in the area of the 500 block of East Mulberry respond for a shooting.
Across town, Rogers police were answering a 911 call. What they discovered brought almost every on-duty officer to the scene. Sandra and James Warren had been shot to death in their own home. Police began searching for their killer, but the killer was already with police and Pam.
He has my arm behind me with the gun in my back, and we come in here, and at the time there was a counter right here, and Ray Fine walks toward us, and he starts shooting him.
Parker shot Officer Ray Fine and took over the almost empty police department.
I sat with my knees, up to me on this bench.
Your knees pulled to your chest.
Knees pulled to my chest the rest of the evening.
Police tried to talk with Parker and get him to set Pam free, but when that failed,
there was gunfire. And he stepped to the door and walked in here. It was dark, and he fired his weapon and saw the fire.
This is the first time in 25 years she's been in this room, and the unpleasant memories have come flooding back.
It hit me right here. It came out my back, and it just lifted me up from where I was sitting, and then I just fell on the floor. And the pain was just unbelievable.
You said he checked your pulse.
So then, as I lay there, he came back and checked my pulse and my neck.
In those moments, Pam fought the blackness and prayed help would arrive in time.
We could hear him saying, "What's going on? What's going on?" And he said, "I'm coming out." And he got up and walked over and slid the gun out. And then they arrested him. And then they yelled my name, and I said yes.
Finally, Pam knew help had arrived. She also knew the cracks she once suspected in the walls of her relationship were now bloodstains on the walls around her. Soon, Pam woke up here at St. Mary's Hospital in Rogers. She spent months on the 3rd floor piecing her life back together. The hospital has become the center for nonprofits. The Northwest Arkansas Women's Shelter now sits on the 3rd floor, where women spend time piecing their lives back together. In fact, Pam's old hospital room is now a shelter room that offers a different kind of healing.
Now this is going to be a place of shelter for battered women, the very situation I was in.
And the walls here tell a story.
James and Sandra Warren were murdered by their ex-son-in-law.
Not just to Pam, but to anyone who takes a moment to read this plaque and learn they're not alone. Pam and her parents, Sandra and James, have been there, paid the price, and somehow refused to give up.
You know, they say that if you, as long as you talk about people, you keep them alive to some degree. And so I do talk about my mom and dad, and I work every day to keep going on because I don't want to let him win.
Warren Bratcher now sits on the board of the Northwest Arkansas Women's Shelter. In 1996, the state put Frankie Parker to death by lethal injection. We should also mention Pam did file suit against the city, and that case landed here in what was the federal courthouse in Fayetteville. According to her attorney, the jury ruled in her favor, but the judge set that verdict aside. Upon appeal, the two parties did eventually reach a settlement, complete with a non-disclosure agreement. As for Officer Ray Fine, he survived the attack and I'm told now lives in Texas. And the Rogers Police Department has moved to a new location that includes state-of-the-art security.